Today, doctors at UAB say they believe kids will eventually be in groups recommended to get the COVID-19 vaccine, but there have not been enough studies yet. 2 of the 3 people in Alabama found to have the highly contagious UK variant of COVID-19 were under 19 years old, but the current vaccine should keep people protected from the other strains that we have seen popping up.
Currently, the understanding that we have is that the vaccines that we are currently using, the Pfizer vaccine, the Moderna vaccine, the immunity that they induce in someone who's vaccinated, that immunity is sufficient to snuff out the variants, the Brazil variant, the UK variant, and so forth. Now, whether that stays true over time, we don't know, but right now that seems to be the case. So when your group is called, get vaccinated.
When it comes to kids getting the vaccine, we are still some time away from that being recommended. In initial trials, Pfizer only had participants 16 and up. Moderna tested 18 and up. Both companies have now expanded trials to kids 12 years and older.